Welcome to the deep dive. We take the sources you share with us and, well, we extract the most important insights, giving you that shortcut to being really well informed.
That's the goal.
And today we're jumping into a stack of articles, research papers, notes you've sent over, all focused on a really critical area in healthcare clinical trials.
Yeah, absolutely critical.
Yeah.
And specifically, we're looking at how artificial intelligence, AI, is starting to change, maybe even transform.
Yeah.
One of the biggest bottlenecks in that whole process.
Which is?
Finding the right people for the study. The participants.
Yeah.
And doing it faster.
Right. So our mission today for this deep dive is to really understand the challenges there in recruitment, see how AI is positioned as maybe a powerful solution, and pull out those key nuggets, those core ideas from the material you've given us.
Okay, let's dive in. So, clinical trials, they're absolutely essential, right? For developing new treatments, new medicines. You have to test if something is safe and if it actually works.
No question. That's the bedrock of medical progress.
But, as all these sources point out, there's this massive hurdle that just slows everything down. And that's patient recruitment.
Finding the right people. It sounds simple, but the sources really paint a picture of how incredibly difficult it is. One piece described it like searching for a needle in a haystack.
A very specific needle.
Exactly. You need people who fit this long, very precise list of criteria, the inclusion and exclusion criteria, specific condition, age range, maybe disease stage, treatments they've had or haven't had.
The list goes on and on.
And on top of all that, they also need to be willing and actually able to participate, which can be a big commitment.
It really can be. And the traditional ways of finding these folks, general advertising, maybe flyers, relying on doctors to refer patients.
Which sounds sensible, but I guess doctors are busy.
Extremely busy. And they might not know the exact, very specific needs of every single trial happening. So these methods, the sources say, are often just inefficient, slow, costly too.
And the knock-on effect is delays.
Big delays. Promising treatments, stuff that looked great in the lab, gets stuck. If you can't find the patients, you can't run the trial. If you can't run the trial, you can't get the results, can't get approvals.
And that means real people, patients waiting for new options, are left waiting longer.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Which really brings us to AI. This is where the potential starts to look, well, quite exciting based on these sources.
Okay.
The picture they paint is AI making the whole clinical trial process, but especially recruitment, much more efficient, more effective, and sort of fundamentally more data-driven.
So it's not just about making it faster, though. That's part of it.
Speed is a big outcome, yeah, but it's also about optimizing things, making better use of information. But yes, the really dramatic impact highlighted in this material is definitely on speeding up that recruitment phase.
How does AI actually do that? How does it go from, crunching data to actually identifying patient X might be good for trial Y?
Well, it starts with data. AI systems can tap into huge amounts of health information from different places. The big one is electronic health records, EHRs.
Right, the digital patient charts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Also, things like insurance claims data. Some sources even mention social media, although that obviously raises huge red flags around privacy, which are, critical in healthcare.
Absolutely paramount. So focusing on the more established data, like EHRs, which are already handled under strict privacy rules, assuming it's properly anonymized or de-identified for this purpose.
Yes, absolutely key. The AI isn't looking at Jane Doe. It's looking at anonymized profiles. But what it can do is analyze the really granular details within those EHRs.
Like what kind of details?
Everything. Diagnosis codes, lab results over time, medications prescribed, past surgeries or procedures, demographic info like age, all that rich data.
Okay.
And then it cross-references all that against the very specific inclusion and exclusion criteria for a particular trial.
Ah, okay. So instead of a research coordinator manually reading through potentially hundreds of charts.
Or thousands.
Yeah. Spending days or weeks just trying to find a handful of possibles, the AI can scan massive data sets incredibly quickly.
That's the idea. It does the heavy lifting of that initial screening at scale.
Yeah.
It's a huge shift in how that work gets done.
And once it finds potential matches, does it just spit out a list?
It can do that, yeah. The sources mentioned it can generate lists for the research team to then review more closely, or sometimes it might help facilitate outreach, maybe flagging things for personalized notifications, always through the proper clinical channels, of course.
Got it. It streamlines the process for the human researchers. Did the sources have any real-world examples, a story where this actually happened?
Yes, there was a really interesting anecdote. A hospital implemented one of these AI-powered recruitment tools for a trial.
Okay.
They basically let the system scan their anonymized EHR data. And get this, in just a few hours, the AI identified 50 potential candidates.
It's 50 in hours.
50 potential candidates who matched the complex criteria for a specific lung cancer trial.
Wow. Compared to manual review, that's
Right.
incredibly fast.
Right. So the research team, instead of wading through hundreds or thousands of records, got this pre-screened list of 50 high-probability candidates. They could then focus their time on reviewing those specific cases and reaching out.
And did it work? Did they enroll more people?
The result they mentioned was a 30% increase in enrollment for that trial
20%.
within the first month of using the AI tool.
That's a serious impact, a tangible result you can point to.
Absolutely.
So beyond just the speed and boosting enrollment numbers like that, what other benefits did the sources talk about? Were there other concrete advantages?
Yeah, several. Obviously, saving weeks, maybe even months, just on the recruitment timeline itself is huge, but also potential cost savings.
How so?
Well, less money spent on broad, maybe less effective advertising campaigns.
Yeah.
And reduced staff time spent on that laborious manual screening.
Yeah.
People cost money.
Right. And that freed up staff time, I imagine they can then focus on other important things like maybe patient care when someone is enrolled or managing the trial data.
Exactly that. Better resource allocation. Research staff can focus on higher value tasks, the more human-centric parts of the trial.
Makes sense.
Oh, and another interesting point. AI can also help optimize where trials are even run. Site selection.
How does that work?
By analyzing data like patient demographics, disease prevalence in different areas, it can help pinpoint locations, cities, specific hospital networks that likely have a higher concentration of eligible patients. So you set up your trial sites where the patients actually are.
That's smart. Targeting the effort geographically. Now, this sounds like it has global potential, obviously. The sources also touched on building these systems specifically in India. What does that involve? It sounds complex.
Yeah, it requires a really strategic approach, especially in a diverse and complex healthcare landscape like India.
Yeah.
You need to leverage what's already there, but also tackle specific challenges. The sources sketched out a kind of system architecture for this.
Okay, walk us through that. What are the layers, the components?
So at the bottom, you've got the data layer. Think of it as the foundation. This is where all the patient data securely, compliantly gathered from various hospital EHRs hopefully lives, maybe in a central data warehouse or a similar secure structure.
Got it. The data pool.
Then on top of that, you have the AI model layer. This is the brain where the algorithms are developed and trained. Models specifically designed for tasks like matching patients to trials or even predicting, say, which trial sites might be most successful.
Okay, data layer, AI layer. What about the part people actually use?
Right, that's the application layer. This provides the interfaces, dashboards for researchers maybe, where they can see potential matches, manage lists, or, crucially, APIs.
APIs, application programming interfaces.
Exactly. These are like secure messengers or connectors. They let the AI system talk to other software systems the hospitals are already using. Which leads to the final, really critical layer, workflow integration. This makes sure the AI's insights don't just live in some separate box. They get plugged directly into the existing clinical trial management systems, the EHRs that doctors and research staff use every day.
That integration sounds absolutely vital. If it's not easy to use within their normal work, they probably won't use it.
Precisely. It has to be seamless. And for India specifically, the sources highlighted a few other key things.
Like what?
Using a secure and scalable cloud platform, you need robust infrastructure for this kind of data. Also, leaning on open-source AI frameworks for development can be cost-effective and flexible. And again, hammering home that point about deep integration via APIs into existing hospital systems.
Makes sense. What else?
Strongly recommending pilot projects first. Don't try to boil the ocean. Test it out in a controlled setting. Learn, iterate, build confidence before a big rollout.
Smart. Work out the kinks.
Yeah. And comprehensive training and ongoing support for the healthcare professionals using it. That's essential. They need to understand it, trust it, know how to interpret the recommendations.
User adoption is key.
Absolutely. And then, the really big one, ethics and regulation. Constantly addressing data privacy, ensuring regulatory compliance, being vigilant about potential algorithmic bias.
Yeah.
These are paramount, especially with sensitive health data.
Yeah, you can't overstate the importance of that. Did they mention specific techniques for privacy.
They did touch on things like federated learning.
Yeah.
That's an interesting approach where you can train AI models on data that stays distributed across different hospitals without having to pool all the raw data in one central place.
Yeah.
It's a way to enhance privacy.
Fascinating. So a lot to consider, a complex build, but the potential payoff sounds enormous.
Immense, really.
Yeah.
If you can successfully leverage AI to make clinical trials more efficient, and especially speeding up recruitment, you accelerate the whole pipeline for developing potentially life-saving treatments.
And that, at the end of the day, means getting new therapies to patients who desperately need them much faster. That's real hope.
It shortens that journey from the lab bench to the bedside. It's a powerful prospect.
So let's distill this. What does it all mean? We've basically seen AI tackling one of the toughest, most persistent challenges in medical research, getting the right patients into the right clinical trials.
Yeah, by using health data intelligently, and again, carefully, with privacy front and center, AI shows it can drastically cut down the time it takes to find and recruit participants, moving away from those slow, laborious manual reviews.
And it's not just about making the process faster, cheaper, although that's important. It's fundamentally about connecting people with potential treatments sooner.
Right. Getting new therapies evaluated and potentially approved faster. And also, maybe helping ensure the people in the trials better reflect the diverse populations the treatments are actually intended for.
And we heard that for places like India, putting these systems in place needs careful planning, thinking about the data, the tech integration, privacy rules, training people.
It's a journey, for sure.
But the potential reward accelerating medical breakthroughs, offering new options and hope to patients makes it seem like a journey very much worth taking.
Definitely. Now, here's maybe something to really chew on.
Yeah.
What if we stop thinking about AI just as a tool here, like a faster calculator?
Okay.
What if we start seeing it as more of an indispensable partner in this whole quest for better health? Imagine AI actively helping researchers unlock the full potential of every single trial, optimizing the matching process, maybe even suggesting new trial designs, one patient match at a time.
An AI partner in discovery. That is something to think about.